Hey, what's up, everybody? BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, so academics. I don't know, man. It's a weird thing, right? He's got going on right now because he's been on camera. I mean, he knew everybody was watching this, so I imagine he did it for publicity in this weird era we're in. But he was essentially saying some inappropriate things to a 15-year-old boy. Inappropriate in the sense that he was saying, "Hey, would you let someone do something to you?" And it was supposed to be in a joking manner based on the culture of what they engage in on that platform. It's like that's how they joke. And we're in a world where streaming is everything, video gaming is everything, and I guess this kid is supposed to be a fan of a certain streamer. So as a result, he's academics is essentially calling him a D writer, like that kind of thing. Like, would you let him this since you're such a big fan of him? That kind of thing. But it's like, remind you, there's a person he's talking to is 15 years old. Not to mention that the guy that you're referring to is also a guy. So the kid is a guy who's telling you he don't roll like that. A 15-year-old kid shouldn't have to explain to a grown man how he rolls. You know what I mean? But this is one of those situations where academics is getting a lot of flack for it. But like I said, we're in a weird era where people do stuff like this for entertainment, for attention. In a world where Drake is being called a PDF file and the Diddy files and all that, it's the lines are blurred about what's appropriate. The idea that good publicity, bad publicity is still good publicity regardless. We're in an era where people will literally believe that to their core. So Drake had how many people calling him a PDF file? Academics sees that as hits, not necessarily backlash or anything. It's just the numbers. If we got a bunch of people talking about me, then it's a good thing, regardless of what it is. So like, that's the era we're in. This is how people joke. The lines are blurred about, what's appropriate in regards to how people act. Kids are interacting with children online via these video games. Is blurring the lines between age norms as it pertains to who's friends with who. And that's what I think a lot of people are having a hard time with. I truly am of the mindset that I've watched so many people in my 40 years of previous eras have a hard time adapting to the era that they're in, saying we don't do this and men don't do that. People do this. They literally do that. You know what I mean? And I've seen so many people do that in this life to where it's like, I'm not going to be that old man. I will adapt to whatever, however weird it is, I'm going to adapt. But there are certain things that are done for certain reasons. There are certain things that are not done for wisdom reasons. And that we forget the wisdom behind what we do ends up coercing us into spaces where we end up making mistakes that cost us lessons that we've already learned in society. And so that's where I draw the line as it pertains to, okay, if y'all want to have grown-ups and kids have jokes and talk with one another, the era I'm from, that's inappropriate. The era we're heading into, that's pretty damn normal. And there could be new norms of what's appropriate leading into conversations that ultimately allow for the world to change without people thinking the same way or being concerned about the same things they used to. But at the end of the day, the wisdom behind not having grown people discussing certain things with children is not going to be lost behind this culture of trying to blur those lines. Children deserve to have their respect of their childhood and the sensitivity of their psyche and how disruptive it can be for their psyche, being respected by grown people who don't have those concerns. Now that they understand things, have discovered themselves, they know who they are, they know what comes with what. Children don't. So when you're doing certain things, you're trying to influence a child, you could be affecting their psyche, sending them down a path that's no good for them, and they don't know what their choices are, their options are, ultimately what's best for them. This is why you don't blur those lines. This is why men should stay in men's place and children should stay in children's places, because at the end of the day, when those two places collide, you got one side that understands and the other side that don't. And that's really what it comes down to. And so for me, while y'all want to have all this change on us to where men could be playing video games with 15-year-olds and talking bad words and stuff like that, I'm not going to get off my lawn that conversation. But what I will say is, if a grown man's gonna be on a video game with a young child, other grown people need to say, yo, hey, nah, we ain't gonna have these type of conversations. We're gonna govern these platforms in such a way that censors certain things that a grown man can say to a child. And if you say these things on this platform to that person of that age, that's when we kick you offline. That's when we report you to so-and-so, whoever, how it goes. That's the type of governance that needs to be in, supervising these platforms that are ultimately going to blur those lines of age, so that you don't have conversations like this creating a culture where this is normal to converse like this, because that's what you don't want. That's when you start opening up the doors for things you don't want to have happen taking place because of it. And a guy like Akademiks, who only cares about his numbers, only cares about hits, don't care about nothing else, ain't trying to be reasonable about nothing, he ain't trying to teach nobody nothing, he just wants hits. And if you tell him that he can roll around in dirt to get hits, he's going to roll around in dirt to do so. If you tell him that's what's cool and the biggest star in the world is being called a PDF file, he wants you to call him one too. Like it, with a morally bankrupt entity like that, doing all types of unwise things for selfish gain, we end up coercing ourselves into a culture that ultimately allows for consequences that we do not want for our future, for our kids, and for the norms that they will ultimately adapt with. It's an irresponsible man, this Akademiks. And that's what I want people to understand. He has already accepted his fate as somebody without morals. Long ago. So whatever he's doing right now, it's all about hits, and his soul's been sold a long time ago. What we can't allow is for the entities behind him to continue to send him into spaces that create these cultures that ultimately harm our children and put them in positions to where they can be exploited by grown people. That's what I don't want. See, the problem with a lot of this is it goes into a different conversation about our government and what their true intentions are with our children and with the world around us, and how our marketing dollars is spent in different things that they want to do. Because at the end of the day, if the Akademiks oversteps lines with them, then you start seeing consequences to come to him. But if he's not doing things that they don't like, then you're going to continue to see him have a voice and a platform and all this, that, and the third. So this is, I assume, is something they're fine with. You see what I'm saying? That's a mistake they made when they showed us how they act when they're unhappy with one of these type of individuals. Now you show me what it looks like when you're not pleased with him. So when I see he doing something he has no business doing, and I don't see you act like that, American government, then I get to assume that there's some people in lockstep with you that want these inappropriate things to take place for your own damn reasons. And given the fact that this platform, what we do, paying attention to what's going on in Gaza, the genocide, we know exactly the hypocrisy you engage in. I'm not so surprised that you're not looking to protect children. I'm not so surprised by that. So that's what I have to say to those behind Akademiks who are going to cut him down if he do anything they don't like. Let him get up there and say free Palestine, and all of a sudden you're going to see all types of stuff happen to Akademiks that he don't like. But he can ask a 15-year-old boy this, that, and the third, and the only people coming down on him are other platforms that pretty much want the same thing he wants, which is attention at all costs. It's a perversion of reality. If I'm being completely honest with you, it's a perversion of reality. They're trying to make things normal that we already know we shouldn't want normalized for any reason whatsoever. And we should be very confident that what we're doing in regards to holding them accountable is what the government should be doing. And knowing damn well they're not going to do that unless he does something that goes against their interests, for which 9 out of 10 times in this era is nothing moral at all. And so that's what I want people to understand, man. I look at Akademiks, I just see the people behind him. Anytime he do something, hey, he think he can get in trouble for it, you start seeing disclaimers before the videos start. You start seeing him walk back his language and all different types of stuff. You know when he's crossing the line with the people that can do something to him, and you know when he's not. And right now, he ain't done nothing that pissed him off at all. And that's telling about them and about him. So that's what I got to say about that, man. Academics, man, I don't know, man. I gave up on you a long time ago, brother, as it pertains to you providing something of substance to this earth. Gave up on that a long time ago. You know, it's about keeping those people happy and ultimately getting all the hits that you can get within those parameters. And a lot of stuff they want you to do to get them hits is a part of a bigger picture. It ain't just about what they say is cool. There's marketing dollars going into these perverse things that they are telling you is cool. You're following a trend because they allowed that trend to happen with the other platforms that they control, for which if they do something just like you, if that they don't like, they'll come down on them. They are using all different types of voices to try to normalize PDF files and the behaviors such as these. Who you think's behind the money that's going into the songs that's painting Drake out to be this? This is why he's suing these people now. It's bigger than Drake, though. It's bigger than his negotiation, them not wanting to pay him. It's about them what they want to normalize here within our skulls and within the developing minds of our young people. The weird stuff they trying to give us probably has something along the lines to do with the way they handle cigarettes. They give you the cigarette and then they give you the patch to come with it to get you off the cigarettes. It's probably the same thing. It's probably along the same lines of that formula right there. They create the problem, they create the solution. And as it pertains to blurring the lines between children and grown-ups, that's a problem. That is a big problem. But if managed correctly, can be inverted into something that's really can be cool too. I can see just where bad information is spread between platforms with grown-ups and children, so can wisdom and lessons learned that can help become a village that raises children, that can make it so that grown people can reach children in a way that allows for them to not run into some of the walls that some of us grown people have run into. That's probably what some of us were missing when we were their age. It was grown people in the forms we were in, giving us the good things that ultimately comes with communication with older people and wiser people. You see what I'm saying? It don't have to always be bad. But it does have to be governed so that those who want to put poison into the well aren't able to do so. And parents do have to hold themselves accountable for doing the very best they can to monitor what your kids are doing. Period. You can't expect that village to not have poison placers in it. There are always going to be PDF files and people want to take advantage of kids. People want to get in your pocket by way of your children. Try to get them to love something that you have to pay for. There's always going to be individuals like that. You got to get them out of there. And you got to make sure that your children aren't talking to them while we're trying to figure out how to do so. So that they're not taking advantage of them, having flying your kids out to God knows where to do God knows what. You don't want no parts of any of that energy. And that's the wisdom that ultimately we're neglecting when we normalize this without some sense of overall governance over these platforms that have this taking place. I'm not going to be the get off my lawn guy, but I will be the, hey, let's keep that lawn mowed. If since you're going to be on my lawn, how about you do some work on that damn thing? You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about it. Instead of just telling the world we don't do this and just looking crazy at it when it happens. No, get involved. This is what's happening. This is what your kids want to do. This is what grown men are doing. They're playing video games. The lines are blurred at the understanding that as a grown man of 40 years old, I grew up with video games, so I probably ain't put my controller down just because your kid picked it up. You see what I'm saying? Now I got to put my controller down because it's not. No, I'm not going to put my controller down. We're going to be in the same spaces. And so there should be some governance there. There should be some laws and some credence to the wisdom of, hey, certain conversations don't need to be had. Certain jokes don't need to be told. A kid is always going to think it's cool that certain conversation is being had, but they don't often know why they shouldn't be had. So you can't adhere to that just because a kid wanted it. Just because they think it's cool. If they knew what was best for them, they wouldn't want those things. And that's what it really comes down to. You got to govern those circumstances. You got to do what you can to make sure that those conversations aren't had while still allowing those kids to have this space from which to be themselves. And that's a tricky line, but as we continue to go forward with these type of things, we'll learn how to tread it. It's our responsibility as the village that raises these children. My name is BDF44. I thank you all for watching.